Hello fellow humans and welcome to the STB1 tech tour review. Now this tank is quite interesting, albeit pretty hard to play once you get into it. However, let's have a look at them, let's have a look at the tech tree as well. The stats of all of them are quite interesting. Now armor is not a thing for all of these except for the tier 10. However, obviously let's start off with the gun. The Tier 6 and a Tier 7 have somewhat similar guns, however obviously the Tier 7 does have the autoloader and does have quite a bit higher DPM. However, the penetration on the Tier 7 is quite bad. Then obviously we have pretty solid penetration on the Tier 8, which is nice to have, and the Tier 9 has average penetration for its tier, and so does the Tier 10. 160, 160, 225, 350. That's a very normal step up here for these tiers, so nothing out of the ordinary there in terms of the guns. Now, the weapon handling is all around relatively same-ish for all of them. They all have 10 degrees of gun depression, except the STB, which has 11, and the dispersions stay around the same margin of 0.31, with slight outliers at the STB1 and the Type 5 GRE. The aim time is, again, very, very similar, pretty much. You won't notice a difference, but on the Tier 9 and the Tier 10 it is slightly better. Then the mobility, the Tier 6 is good, and then it goes down quite a bit for the Tier 7, which obviously does have the autoloader, so it kind of makes up for it a bit. The traverse continually increases for all of them, which is a nice thing to have. And then, obviously, you again increase the mobility slightly from Tier 9 to Tier 10, just to have a bit of a step up there. They're not premium tanks, so these credit coefficients are horrible, and the armor doesn't exist, except for Tier 10, which we will look at now. And with armor, I mean the turret, because the hull is paper. Now, you can get bounces off here, but again, as you can see right here, even in an angle like this, it's 250, so don't rely on it. The turret is the only noticeable piece of armor you have, and it is quite a piece. Now, the turret is very weird. I mean, it has a lot of tiny, tiny sections that are very weirdly shaped, so it's quite easy to bounce shots off this thing. Now, obviously, this top here is still pretty weak, so you're going to have to watch out for that. And also, this piece right here below the gun mantlet, you're going to get penned through that as well. As you can see, 256. So you're going to have to watch out. Keep the tank moving, obviously, because if you just sit in one spot, you're asking to be penned. So be careful with what you do. However, the turret is quite reliable. And 11 degrees of gun depression, well, here it's 8, but whatever. 11 degrees of gun depression is very, very good. And that is what makes this tank special. And now, for the equipment of this vehicle, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You got the toolbox, you got the engine accelerator, the improved optics, the vertex stabilizer, enhanced gun lane drive. Those are always set anyway. And then enhanced armor, improved assembly. It really depends if you want to try to get a bit more turret armor to make that more reliable, or you just get those 111 more hit points, and then defense system, pretty much obvious there. And then gun rammer. Well, I mean, you have 3000 DPM without the gun rammer. You can go for calibrate, so you have 330 pen, which I do myself. So it really depends. Calibrated gun rammer, whichever one you feel more comfortable with, whichever one works better for you. Oh, let's go with the Cheeto, the Tier 6, and well, if you haven't liked and subscribed until now, don't forget to do that, obviously, and check out the links in the channel description, like my Discord server. So, this thing is, it's a Tier 6, so it's very boring. I mean, it has 0 armor. It's got the classic 160 alpha damage with somewhat penetration. And these tanks do have double AP rounds, so they don't have APCR, they don't have heat. At least the lower tier ones don't. Which means that you have the same characteristics for both rounds, because obviously APCR flies faster but loses more penetration over distance. Heat doesn't lose penetration over distance, but it's a lot slower. AP is the middle ground, so both shells here essentially work the same. Now, what you don't want to have, you don't want to have people that go to the city. That's always bad. City is shitty, remember that. Now, in real life, obviously Blitz has nothing to do with that. However, in real life, a tanker going into the city is a tanker that wants to die. Now in Blitz, the same thing applies. A tanker that goes city is a tanker that wants to die. Why? Because city, especially one like this on this map, is a horrible place to go to, especially in the medium tank. Why? Because it's all 90-degree corners that you can't hide, you can't peek around them, whatever, especially if a tank that has gun depression. then I see it all the time. I see like T1 10E5s go city. I'm like, what the fuck? So, anyway, these vehicles never belong there. You put them in the field. If you put something like this with 10 degrees of gun depression into a flat ground, then you're not playing the game right. These vehicles, especially given that they have no armor, belong in the hills where you can hide the hull, where you can use the relatively small turret profile to your advantage to avoid getting shot at, because that's all you got with a vehicle like this one. So don't go in the city, and don't try and brawl with heavies or something like that. That's also a pretty bad idea for the most part, because the best heavy you brawl with is the one that you can shoot in the ass in a medium tank like this, or like that. And now all that remains is getting rid of the MX-12T, and it's an alright game for this vehicle. I'm not gonna play another one because obviously all of these happened in a row, so there's no trickery of editing here. Obviously I cut the boring parts, but all these games from the Cheeto to the STB1 have all been played in a row, because obviously just cherry picking games is a bit boring. So at this point, again, we got no armor. This is a massive target. It's got a 3-shot autoloader that is pretty solid, and it only reloads in about 8 seconds, so that is a pretty good reload here with this gun. The problem with this tank is a penetration, because it has the same penetration as a tier 6, so you want to be a bit careful with where you put this tank, because if you start brawling with Tigers and Smashers and Lycans, then that's absolutely not going to work at all. Or you could even bounce over Type 62 if you want. So at this point, you know, we're having a tank that needs to be played very carefully. You got gun depression, yes, but you got no turret armor, which means going hull down, yes, great, works. However, you're still gonna get pet if they can hit you, that is. So, you know, now the cap is happening. The clown circus is in town because they're in the gap circle. So, you know, I never understand why people just cap. I mean, you sit there and wait for something to happen, like nothing. And again, that's how it works sometimes. And now all I'm gonna do is have a shot at the SP1C, have a shot at the T-37, and they're both dead with one clip, which is very nice. And the Annihilator has sacrificed himself for the capture circle. And now, at this point, I'm like, okay, there's no one over there. I'm gonna have to try and get over there. And there is a spark that is camping on the bridge, which, okay then. That's not very good for your hit points, but sure. And now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to push forward. Now, this thing can work very well. The autoloader, however, you got to be a bit careful because it's out of the line, right? This is the only tank with an autoloader in this entire line. It doesn't really make a lot of sense, but just with the 1 second injury clip, you might as well treat it as a single shot because it unloads very quickly. However, unlike a single shot, you got more opportunities to get that 160 damage out. And there's a TOG camping out in the open. I don't understand the world anymore, but here we are. Now all you're gonna do, look at that massive target. All you're gonna do is take a shot at it. And I know TOG's not a threat. The Annihilator needs to be decapped. So that's what I'm gonna try to do with the second shot. And now that leaves a spark in the TOG. That's 2.5k damage already. And now, look at that TOG. He's just standing there out in the open, completely for free. That's obviously free damage for me, which is very lovely. Which also is going to lead to an ace in this tank. So, that's quite nice. And all I'm going to do now is, again, wait for the reload. It's not that long. And then finish him off at the end. He can't see anything. He doesn't have a loader. So, now he's dead. That's 3.4k damage. And an ace. Which is, the tier 7 is pretty solid. It can be a lot of fun, but it is annoying because it can't pin anything for the most part. So if you're in a tier 8 battle with a tier 8, ouch. Try to avoid that as much as possible. If you're in a tier 8 battle, you're not having a great time. We're also not going to have a great time in the STA1. Now, why do I have this camo? First of all, someone on my channel, I said, if you become a channel member, I buy it. So here we are. Now, this tank is disappointing. It's basically a Pershing without all the advantages of the Pershing, while retaining all the disadvantage of the Pershing. Well, to its credit, it does have solid standard penetration at around 220 and a good heat round with like 272 or something like that. So the penetration on this thing is pretty good, which is lovely, and that is going to be very useful. However, the rest of the tank kind of sucks. It doesn't have any armor whatsoever, so you can't really fight anyone unless you want to die. Or you simply do that where the enemy is distracted, they're looking away, and poof, easy free damage. So this tank is very much a pain, in my opinion. Now, it's very hard to play, which means if you're not already experienced at the game, then stay the hell away from this. This is not a tank that you want to learn the game with. This is something you already know how to play a couple of tanks. You know, you played the Panther 2, you played the Pershing, you maybe even played the Pantera. After that, maybe try this one. Or no. Now, as I said, it's got the good penetration, which means you can use that to your advantage. So you want to play a bit passive here. You can fight heavies. I don't quite get what the Chisei is doing here, because I can pen his lower plate with AP. What he should be doing right now is charge at me, because then I can't pen him, because obviously I will have to go for heat rounds in his turret. But now I can just easily pen him anyway, which is a bit weird, but you do that, I mean. So basically, this tank works. It's bad. Just once you're done with it, move on, and that's what we're gonna do as well. To whatever that leopard is doing, and the 50B. I mean, I will never understand how you can think like, there are 5 enemies in front of me. Let's charge into them. That is not heroics. That is stupidity. You always want to maintain a 1v1 at worst. Ideally, you always want to have a 1v0 in a tank like this, where you're shooting at someone that can't shoot at you. That's the ideal with this kind of tank. Like that, for example. Like that shot right there. And in something like a super heavy, you can survive 1v3s, 1v4s, something like that, but not for long. So ideally, you always want to have a 1v1. You always want to fight no more than 1 tank at the same time, right? If there is 2 tanks that can shoot at you in the same time, you get out of there, you change position, right? Because a dead tank can't be effective, and a dead team can't be effective either. So what I'm seeing now is they're pushing forward, right? I don't want to leave just yet. However, I will leave very soon, because I know that Chieftain's going to get pushed. He's going to die, which is not going to end well. I know there's a grill up there who's probably going to shoot me, and that's not going to be very tasty. So I'm going to try to get out of here, because I know this game's lost. No point in actually trying to fight these people, right? Because if I fight them, I'm going to die, and the grill is getting wrecked me. So I'm going to get out of there. I'm going to run. Why? Because if I stay, I'm dead. Guaranteed. If I get away, I can get a couple more shots here and there, and maybe die with having been a bit more effective, right? Because just because your team's bad doesn't mean that you have to be. You can always do a bit more here and there if you want to. If you want to be bad, then please don't, but whatever. And now, it's obviously pretty impossible to win this, but I'm 400 HP. The grill's lurking up there. I know that, which means I'm not going to try to peek too far here, because I know the grill's sitting up there. And I'm just going to try to get a shot at the CC here, because he's somewhat alone. And the 100, the grill, the TVP, they're together. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn around, and I'm going to peek in reverse. Why? Because that means that ideally he thinks I'm peeking forward. However, when I'm peeking in reverse, you know, he's not going to expect that. However, obviously the grill's up there, which means I'm dead. But 3.5k damage done nonetheless. It's very straightforward. Don't be the one that takes the dumb fights. Just take fights that you can win. Like this one, for example, with the 11 degrees of gun depression of the STB-1, where I just saw that guy fire, which means he's not a threat. Poof, I can do that. And that's a thing I see a lot of people do wrong as well, where they get shot and then they pull back. Like, that enemy just shot. He's helpless right now. You can shoot him, you know, unless he has like 3 people as a backup, then you absolutely should back off. And yeah, like that 50B did there in the last game, as you saw. That's not what you should do. That's a very bad idea, to just rush into 5 people. That's never gonna work out, ever. You're always gonna get wrecked, unless they're vegetables, which is, I mean, this is Blitz. It's very possible, but anyway, it's speaking of vegetables, the RU-201 is now dead. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go forward. I'm going to take that position. I don't quite know. Well, now I know what the FE4005 is. And what I want to do here is get rid of these, ensuring to get rid of the Progetto here very quickly. And, you know, I'm going to try to move back here and attempt to hide the hull, which can be penned with hash, as you can see right there, which is a bit unfortunate. But overall, we now have the position. Trading a bit of hit points for position is somewhat always going to be useful. But trading all your hit points for a position that you then can't hold? Nope. And again, with this vehicle, you want to use a turret. You don't want to be put in a situation where you're completely exposed. You don't want to do that with any tank, really, where you're always completely exposed. Unless it's like a mouse or something like that, where you have all the armor in the world and nothing's going to happen to you. Now at this point, as seen on the minimap, the Progetto's there. My teammate's dead. So I'm going to focus on that Progetto. Got to get rid of that Progetto because he's annoying. And now, ouch, there's an FE4005, which means obviously I'm now going to go behind this rock. I'm going to go unspotted, and then I'm going to move across. If I move across instantly, the FE is going to exactly know where I am. I'm going to go up here. Now again, I see I'm a one-shot. I have another guy on my team that's a one-shot. They got two heavies there. We got a light tank that's camping in the back, which means he's absolutely and utterly useless, which means this is basically a 2 versus 3 right now. So I'm going to take a blind shot because, I mean, that's where he's most likely going to be. And then, essentially, there he is. And that shot goes somewhere, which is going to end up really bad in the end. So, obviously, I'm a one-shot, so I don't want to peek in a bad way here. So now, he fired once. You got to count the shells. Because if he fires 4 times, he's out of shells. And now, my friend is dead, and I only have that light tank that is completely and utterly incompetent. That's 2 shells. So, that's 3. And now the Sheridan's dead, to the surprise of absolutely no one. I've done 4k though, so for me, this is already a pretty good game, and that's 5th shell, which means I can basically push him now if I want to. However, the problem is I can't, because then the other 2 heavies can just instantly come at me, because, I mean, they're right there. So, I'm going to not push this 4005 here, I'm going to stay back instead, because then maybe I get another shot or 2. Now, it would be nice to have gotten that 4005, but I missed those 2 shots at the beginning, and that just didn't work out quite well. And 11 degrees of gun depression is lovely to have, but it's not quite enough for that. So, the problem is, the player makes the tank. And if the players on your team are garbage, it doesn't matter what tank they have. However, if you have a tank like the STB-1, which can do really well, and that's 4.8k damage like that, I didn't cherry pick this, it's just one random game. If you got that, you can do really well. Use the gun depression, don't fight 5 people at the same time, and just think what you're doing. That's just start thinking. If you start thinking, you're already doing better than 95% of Blitz players. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Are you gonna get it? Put it in the comments. Bye bye.